conducted by Loan Process Solution, LLC. Answers that matter. Disclaimer: the information provided in this video is for informational purposes only and not meant to take place of legal advice.
Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining. Let's get started. Get your pens and your pencils out. We got a lot to cover and a short time to do it. Here we go. Let's do it. All right. So, you guys have your pens and your paper and pad out and you're ready to get started, right? Okay. So, you will be able to put your questions and your comments in the inbox or the email. You can email it to us. And so, we have here the inbox is where you can put your communication in, and you can also send us an email. We are monitoring both the inbox and the email, so we'll get your questions. And so the email address is simply askharriet@outlook.com. And so we have a quote of the day. You see this little cute little girl here? You know how children are. Sometimes if they don't want to eat and you're trying to feed them and they don't want it, they'll get the point across to you. They'll put their hand up to say, no, I do not want this. Okay? So the quote of the day is, a closed mouth do not get fed. So take advantage of this time. This is not the time to close your mouth. This is the time to go ahead and communicate with us. You can put your questions again in the inbox, or you can email us. And that email address again is simply askharriet@outlook.com. Okay, so today's topic is, why do lenders ask for so much? I get this question all the time because, my credit scores are high, I got great income, can't they see that I pay my bills on time? What is it that the lenders want? I get that question a lot. Why do they ask for so much? Okay, so why do lenders ask for so much? Well, there is a rule. It's called the ability to repay rule. And this is also called, it's also known by ATR, and it was established, it's a part of the Dodd-Frank Act, and it was established in January of 2013. So lenders are required to show that you are able to repay that loan. Did you guys know that? Just by a show of hands or in your inbox, you can just type yes or no. Do that for me now real quick. Thank you guys. Wow, okay. So I see quite a few. It looks like the majority did not know. But yes, a lender must be required to show that we can repay a loan if we take out a loan. So, and it's all under this ATR rule. And there's some things that a lender has to consider. They have to consider your income, your assets, and we're going to cover these items later. Your employment, credit history, and your monthly expenses. So yes, these are 5 things that lenders must consider and document. They must document that they considered these 5 items to show that you have the ability to pay back the loan. So lenders cannot use introductory rates or teaser rates alone. They also have to figure out or determine that when that interest rate increases, you can also afford the higher payment, okay? So here's a little example. Again, interest rate starts out low, and later on in the term of the loan, that interest rate is going to increase, right? The lender has to make a reasonable effort to figure out that you and I, if we get a loan, can afford the higher rate. Now, if I repeat anything, it's because it's very important. I want you guys to make sure that you pay attention to that. So this is very important because now I think some of the rates are we're starting to see more adjustable rate type loans. So that's something that the lender is required to do now. If you're qualifying for a lower rate and eventually your rate is going to increase, which means that your payment's going to increase, the lender has to make sure that you can at least make it a reasonable effort to determine that you can afford that higher payment when the interest rate increases. Okay, guys, so I want you guys to write this down. This is a website, a very good, useful, a lot of information on this site that's going to help you. And it's cfpb.gov. It's a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I want you guys to write that down. Visit that site when you get opportunity. You'll find a lot of information. It talks a lot about your rights as a consumer. So a consumer is anyone that applies for a loan. You or I, if we're applying for a loan, we're considered a consumer. All right. So let's review this again. I'm going to remember I told you if I repeat something, it's because it's important. And this is important. It really is. So if you apply for a mortgage and the interest rate is low initially, and then that interest rate increases anytime during that term of that loan, the lender is responsible, or they should make the lender should make a reasonable effort to find out that you can pay that higher interest rate. Remember, if the interest rate goes up, that payment is going to go up. So that's very, very important. Okay, so let's talk about some of the methods that's used by lenders, okay, to determine if you can afford to make that mortgage payment or that payment of any type if you're applying for a loan. So one of the things that's used, that's common among lenders to describe, the factors that are used to determine your credit worthiness, it's called the 5 C's of credit. Now you may see this written several different ways, the 5 C's of credit, but that's what it's called. It's called the 5 C's of credit. And again, it is 5 methods or factors that's taken in consideration when the lender's considering whether you qualify for that loan that you're going to be applying for. So let's dig a little deeper. Let's dig a little bit deeper. So let me just ask you guys, have you guys heard of the 5 C's of credit before? If you guys can just put it in the inbox for me. All right, so yeah, some of you have. Great, great. Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit more, just kind of see what the 5 C's of credit is. So we talked about the 5 C's of credit. It is a method that's used by lenders to determine whether you can afford, I should say, looking at the risk factor, whether how risky is it? Is this a good loan? Are you going to be able to repay this loan? So there are 5 factors that's taken in consideration to weigh that, right? To determine your affordability. And it's all about financial risk for the lender, right? And again, at 5 C's, let's talk about it. One of the C's is called character, and we are going to cover all 5 in more detail, but the first one that we're going to look at is called character. And then we have capacity. Capacity is another one. And then there's capital, collateral, and conditions. And we're going to cover all of these 5 C's one by one in just a little bit. But have you guys ever heard of these C's before? Anybody? Okay. All right, I see your comments. Thank you guys for participating. We're putting your comments in the inbox. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about the C's in more detail. The first C that I want to talk about is character. Now, you know, when we think about character, we think about someone's personality, if they're a nice person or not. Well, this character is different, right? Although it's called character, this first C is talking about the credit report. It talks specifically about our reputation as it relates to our pay history, okay? So it talks about your reputation as it relates to your pay history on your credit report, okay? But not only the credit report, the lenders have several different tools to determine, you know, your affordability as well as your history and your reputation, our reputation for paying our bills. And so there are other types of report for liens and judgments. And there's one that I'd like to just highlight real quickly. It's called LexisNexis. LexisNexis. Okay, so just basically just know that there's more than just your credit report that the lender looks at, right? There are other tools that are available, different reports that are available out there to determine your reputation, our reputation as it relates to paying our bills. Okay, so we're going to cover the second C, which is capacity. Do anybody know what capacity represents? Okay, good. I do see some answers out there. Okay, so capacity, when you hear capacity, we're talking about debt to income. And it's also known as DTI. So let's look at an example of how you calculate your DTI, or debt to income. You would take your monthly debt, in this example is $1,525, and you would look at your gross monthly income. In this example is $4,560. All right, so just a note here, gross is funds that you make, money that you make before taxes come out. So that's gross monthly income. So if you take your monthly debt divided by your monthly income, gross monthly income, it will give you your debt to income. In this example, 33% of this individual's income is allocated towards their debt. That's what that means. So let's look a little bit at the debt. The debt, right? So house payment. In this example, we're not talking about rent right now. We're talking about mortgages, all right? So if you were pre-qualified, for example, for a mortgage of $1,200, or in this example, this person has a home already and they're refinancing. So on their credit report, it shows that their mortgage payment is $1,200. On the credit report, it also shows that they have a car payment that's $225, and they have credit card debt, right? The monthly payments come to a total of $100. So if you add those numbers up, you get $1,525, and that's the debt that we're using in this example, okay? So I want you guys to try to do this on your own. You know, you can pull your own credit report for free. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but find out what your monthly debt is. Now, we're not talking about rent now, remember that. So your monthly debt that shows on credit report, and if you know what your gross monthly income is, that's before you bring your check home, before the tax come out. So gross monthly income, do the calculation yourself to see what your debt to income is. That's an activity I'd love for you guys to do, okay? Remember, monthly debt divided into gross monthly income will give you your debt to income. Okay, so we're going to continue with the 5 C's. And now we're going to talk about capital. Capital. So capital represent money. It's funds that you have. And we have highlighted here reserves. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But capital is the funds that you have available towards the transaction. So any monies that you're planning to put towards this transaction of purchasing your home, that's capital. All monies that you have available to you, that the lender looks at, and finds and documents, I should say, your income, and as well as any funds that you have available. All right. So that's what capital is. So it's funds that you're planning to contribute. In addition to that, it's also reserves. It's money that's left over. So, reserves is looked at in several different ways, and we're going to cover that in another session. But reserves is a part of your capital, okay? Monies that are available, all your funds that are available, even the monies that you're not planning to use towards the transaction. All of that is capital. Okay, so we will continue with the 5 C's, and now we're on the fourth C, which is collateral. So do anybody know what collateral means, what that stands for? Okay, great. So I do see a few of you have already put your comments out there. So let's go over that together. Collateral. So collateral is the property that you're buying. In this example, if you're purchasing a home, that's considered the collateral. And that's collateral that's used to support your loan. For example, what I mean by support is if for any reason you do not make the payment on your loan, the lender has some leverage, right? They can foreclose on that property. So collateral, all right, is something that the lender pays a lot of attention to. I know that we think it's all about the credit and your payment, but that property that you're buying, we want to make sure, the lender's going to want to make sure that that property is worth the amount of monies that you're being loaned, okay? So that's collateral. Okay, so we made it to the fifth C. So the fifth C is conditions, conditions of the loan. Believe it or not, the interest rate and loan amount influences the lender's decision, okay? Loan amount in the sense that how much of a loan to value, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but the loan amount and the interest rate is an area that the lender is going to be looking at before making their decision. They're also going to look at the purpose of the loan. Why are you taking the money out? What is the purpose of the loan? Is it for home improvement? Is it you purchasing a new home? Is it a bill consolidation? Is it a home equity line of credit? Are you pulling equity out of the property? All of that is in this particular category that the lender looks at. So for me, it's sort of like a catch-all category. Yes, it is a catch-all category. And just to repeat something that I said a few minutes ago, the purpose of a loan is important, right? Why are you taking out the loan? Is it for a new home? As we said before, is it home improvement, or are you pulling out equity in the property? That's a part of, it's in the category of conditions. And then another thing that's sort of like outside of any of our control is what's going on in the economy. For an example, with this COVID-19, we've been dealing with this for almost 2 years now, but the lending guidelines has changed tremendously to accommodate home ownership, to accommodate all different types of mortgages that are out there for people that are refinancing. People found themselves having to do modifications on their mortgages and all that. Well, the economy actually changed a lot of the guidelines, lending guidelines, because of this happening. So the state of the economy is a part of the conditions, right? The industry trends and that type of thing. So lending policies and procedures, all of that, all those changes are under the conditions category. So I just want to cover a few of the topics that's coming up that you guys may be interested in. Here's one I think is really going to be good. It's not all about your credit score. Believe me, a lot of people think it is, but it's not. Pay stubs tell more than you know. You would be surprised how much information a lender gets from your pay stubs. Additional income is a topic that we're going to be covering. And under that category, we're going to cover child support, retirement, investment, rental income, bonus, and commission. And then for self-employment, it's going to be a separate category. We know there's a lot of folks out there that's self-employed, so that's going to be a really good one as well. The application process, for those of you who are just starting out, maybe thinking about buying a home or refinancing a home, that's a good, that would be a good topic for you guys. Okay, budget. Now, under the budget category, we're going to cover how to get started and why do I need one. We hear that all the time. Why do I need a budget? Common terms you should know. Now, this is one, guys, it doesn't matter how much experience you have in this industry, whether you're just starting out or you have years and years of experience. It's always good to know the terms. You know, they do change from time to time. And so it's always good to know that. So I would encourage everyone to attend this particular session for that. Become familiar. Bankruptcy, child support, and alimony. Now that's one that we're going to cover, and we're going to cover that for folks that get incomes for child support and alimony, and also those that pay out in those categories. So that's going to be really good. Home inspections. We're going to cover home inspections, right? A lot of people think, you know, I'm buying a new house. Why do I need one? You'll be surprised why. And then the loan closing. We're going to cover the loan closing. I think everyone want to get to that point where you're ready to close, but we're going to cover some of the tips and, you know, things that you should know about that. Okay? So those are the topics that are upcoming. So tell us, what topic would you like for us to cover? What topic did you enjoy best? And don't forget to share our workshops with a friend. You can email us at simplyasharriet@outlook.com. This session has ended, but keep the dream alive. If I can encourage you to do anything, that would be to get as much information as you can, ask as many questions as you can, and be consistent. Be determined. Don't give up on your dream. It can happen.